Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. And welcome to all my new subscribers. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? And if you're passing through, hit the subscribe button. You're gonna love it here. So sorry it's been so long. Just haven't felt like getting on. So today I thought, I need to get on and come back on and start up, get this thing going, because I'm not going to get to where I want to be if I procrastinate, right? So today we're going to talk about a couple of stories. I'm going to do one story and then come back with another story. So I'm going to start today with this one story out of Florida, because today we're going to do the schools this week. I'm going to concentrate on all of the schools because we have so much going on with these schools. We have the schools that took place last week with I think it was last week or the week before, with the Bang Bang, the boy that with the high school thing, which was awfully sad. And I know a lot of people have been talking about that. So if you've heard it, you don't have to watch it. But I do, like I said, like to do commentary for my subscribers. And I like to talk about it how I like to talk about it. So if you don't want to hear it, click off. And so we're going to just continue on with the high school stuff this week, because it's so sad. And we do need to figure out what we're going to do about this type of stuff. But today I want to start off with this sad high school story. It's about a teen boy back in October of 21. And he was 18. He was a senior in high school, getting ready to graduate, and went to school. Normal day, I'm sure. And these teens, get in their head where they feel like they have to fight over a boy or a girl because one slept with the other. And it's really not that serious. As hard as it is to be cheated on, or, as hard as it is, it's very hurtful. And, I think that when you are cheated on, the one that's doing the cheating, they're not realizing how hurtful it is to the other. And as I always say that, if you're going to cheat, just let the other person go. If it's a grown person, be a man or be a woman and just say, you know what, I don't want to be with you anymore. Don't sit and hurt the other person. And because they have feelings too. And, I often say that especially if you're married and you're going to cheat, that woman that knows that they're cheating with that husband, how dare you? Because you know what, if he cheats on you, he cheats on his wife, he's going to cheat on you with, so, to me, I say, have that, if you want to do that, have it, but don't do it, and so, we're teaching our young children at that age that it's okay. So that's what happened. It was like a love triangle in high school, that they took this young boy's life because one thought that the other slept with his girlfriend. And so they took this sword to school and end up unaliving this young man over because one thought that the other slept with the other. So we're going to get into this story, which is a sad story. And as I always say, please leave your comments. I love the comments, and I love, going back and forth with you all and answering every comment. I do try to answer every comment, believe it or not. And, just going back and forth. I also want to say that I am a life coach. So if you do need life coaching services, please go check out my website. I'm also up on Google and on Yelp. My website is michelle-shipley19.org. You can go over there, make an appointment. I do 15-minute free consultations. So if you're interested in life coaching with relationships or just everyday life things that you need to get your life in order, people, hit me up. You can make an appointment, book an appointment over there, and I would be happy to help you get your life in order with anything that you may need. So it is Divine Purpose Coaching. So again, it's Michelle-Shipley Michelle, I'm sorry, I don't even remember my website, Michelle-Shipley19.org. And go over there, book an appointment. The first 15 minutes will be free. And then thereafter, you will, if you like it, book the appointment and we can work together on getting whatever you need in order. So let's get started with this case. And this is Dwight. They called him DJ. And he seemed like just a very nice young man. Had a lot going for him and lost his life way too soon. So let's get into this story and see what is going on here.
After they admitted to their role in a high school love triangle gone horribly wrong. Attorney Nat Hinson joins us to talk about the disturbing details the investigation uncovered and the final aspects of the case that still need to be resolved. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sierra Gillespie, filling in today for Jesse Weber. Two young women, ages 19 and 20, pled guilty to charges of second-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and conspiracy to commit murder in a Florida courtroom. And investigators say it all connects back to their co-defendant, Andrew Clements, and a jealous feud. The story takes us back to October 2021, when 18-year-old Dwight Grant, who went by the nickname DJ, disappeared. He was found dead 2 days later behind some bushes at an apartment complex. DJ had a knife wound in his neck and a sword, yes, you heard that right, sword wound in his chest. Detectives found surveillance video and text messages that incriminated three of DJ's classmates at Miramar High School: Christy Parisian, Jaslyn Smith, and Andre Clements III. We checked out the Truthfinder results for all three suspects and found their criminal records. You just search using info like name, age, and location. For example, prior to his arrest in 2021, Andre Clements just had traffic citations. But now the search shows his charges for first-degree murder, conspiracy, and tampering with evidence. We actually use Truthfinder a lot in our research for Sidebar. It's one of the largest public records search services in the US. Truthfinder can also pull up registered sex offenders in your area, which is super helpful. Just their friend. Clements apparently thought DJ was a romantic rival. Detectives found text messages Clements sent to Parisian a week before DJ disappeared, and they said things like, quote, "Murder will definitely happen soon. It'll be bloody and help me kill him." Smith reportedly told police that Clements said DJ had raped his ex, but when police spoke with the ex-girlfriend, she said she'd had a consensual sexual relationship with DJ. She'd also gotten some threatening text messages from Clements saying she needed to get used to DJ not being around anymore. Police also had surveillance video showing parts of the attack on DJ. Parisian allegedly lured DJ to an apartment complex with the promise of sex, leading him into a stairwell where Clements and Smith were allegedly waiting to strike. Smith told detectives that Clements used a knife and sword on DJ, and Clements and Smith were then allegedly seen carrying a lifeless body out of the stairwell and dropping it into the bushes. Police say the trio then tried to use cleaning products and fire to get rid of the evidence. When DJ didn't come home and then didn't show up for school the next day, his mom got worried and then got in touch with police. Officers just followed a trail of blood, and that led to DJ's body. A grand jury indicted Clements, Parisian, and Smith with first-degree murder, tampering with physical evidence, and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. They'd all pleaded not guilty, but that changed just last week. Parisian and Smith, who are both adults now, entered guilty pleas and admitted to their parts in the brutal attack. Parisian led DJ to the stairwell, while Smith brought the knife and sword to the apartment complex. She also helped restrain DJ when he tried to get away. Both women have maintained that they didn't take Clemens' threat seriously until it was too late. The judge sentenced both of them to 25 years in prison and then an additional 10 years of probation after that. According to South Florida news stations, both Smith and Parisian cried in court when DJ's mother spoke about her loss. The women are now expected to testify against Clemens, who has maintained his plea of not guilty. And while his trial gets underway in January, it seems Clemens will be representing himself in a handwritten motion to dismiss one of his counts. Andre Dexter Clemens III names himself as pro se. That 16-page motion laid out why Clemens felt the court needed to throw out count 3, which is conspiracy to commit murder. His attorneys filed a motion for continuance over the summer, saying they would be prepared for trial by January, but they also reported that Clemens would be representing himself in court, with his public defenders acting as standby counsel. Okay, we've got a lot going on here, from a teenage love triangle gone wrong to accomplices now turned state witnesses and a defendant planning to represent himself. So to begin to make sense of all this, we've got to turn to attorney Matt Hinson. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having us back.
And one of the reasons we wanted to speak with you specifically today, Matt, is your history and advocacy for the victim. That's something we don't want to lose in this story. What are you feeling about that in DJ, who's the victim in this case, how he and his family are likely feeling? What do you make of all of that?
From a feeling standpoint, I can't imagine what they're going through, both the family and the community. I'm sure that everyone is shocked, and they should be. If they're not shocked, we have a problem in society. But and as well as saddened. And, one of the things I think we don't focus on enough in the media is we're not focusing on the victim in terms of the life they led and the legacy they're going to leave behind. I think we focus a lot on the crime because that is what we cover in the media. But I think that it's important not to forget the person that was lost and who they were as a person, not just how they died.
In this case, we want to make sure to continue to bring his memory and talk about him, which is one of the reasons why we're talking about this case. But unfortunately, we do have to kind of dig into the deeper side of things too. And one of the reasons that we're talking about the story at all today is because this is a love triangle, allegedly, that went wrong. And this is something we talk about here kind of a lot on Law and Crime, whether it's two guys versus one girl or two girls fighting over one guy, whatever that may be. But here's an added layer to this. In this case, they were teenagers at the time in high school. So right away, I'm thinking, okay, their frontal lobe isn't quite completely developed because they're still kids. Then they're fighting in this love triangle. I guess, what are your initial thoughts about all that?
Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot more of this in the media, but I think we're seeing more in society of teen on teen type of violence. And whether that's related to other issues of video games or media, or just a lack of general empathy for human life in that particular generation, that's for sociologists and psychologists to determine. But there's certainly an increase in it, and it's very scary. As a parent, it's scary, and as a member of society, it's scary. I think it's something we have to pay attention to.
There's kind of a lot going on in this case because we have 3 defendants, 2 who recently took a plea deal and then a third. So let's start with the first 2. There's some evidence against them that I would like to talk about. To start is incriminating texts. And this isn't to say that other defendants don't have these. I know that we've covered adults who have sent incriminating texts or incriminating Google searches, but these are teenagers. So I'm wondering if that may correlate. And I just wanted to read some of the texts that they allegedly wrote. Quote, "Murder will definitely happen soon." A different text, quote, "It'll be bloody." And then a third text, quote, "Help me kill him." So we know these 2 girls, now women, ended up taking a plea deal, but could these incriminating texts have been really bad for them had they not?
I mean, we do see this situation where there are text messages and there are very much damaging evidence against defendants. And that's the job of their attorney, is to let them know just how bad that evidence is against them. And so in situations like this, it appears that the 2 young females that pled, they probably got legal advice telling them the evidence is bad against them. And so, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of this, though, in teenage crimes, whether it's text messages, Facebook, Snapchat, we're seeing a lot of times where teenagers, to your point earlier, their frontal lobe's not developed yet. They're not thinking about the situation and whether or not they could get away with it. They just don't quite grasp that concept. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see so many prosecutions and plea deals in teenage cases as well.
Do you think it's possible that these kids, because at the time of the crime, they were children under age 18, that they just weren't thinking that this would be investigated or that they would be caught? Because to what you were talking about before, we've covered many stories where there are videos or photos that are on Snapchat that these kids are often thinking, oh, it'll just delete, on Snapchat, it goes away, or nobody's going to be able to read my texts. I mean, do you think that's why they're being so blatant in this?
Well, and as adults, we probably all remember being teenagers and just thinking that won't happen to me. I'll be able to get away with it. And I do think there's an aspect of that of where the understanding of consequences and the understanding of evidence just doesn't compute with teenagers, and they think that they're going to be able to get away with it. And normally they're wrong. They don't get away with it.
So we've got those incriminating texts that are pretty blatant, kind of in black and white. I mean, they even say murder. But putting those aside, let's say that the defense somehow comes up with an argument. We can't prove who wrote them. We can't prove who read them, all of that. Let's say that it's really strong. There's also eyewitness testimony that puts the defendants at the scene carrying a body right by the murder scene. I mean, I know eyewitness testimony isn't 100% all of the time, but that's pretty big evidence against them, right?
I would agree. As a former police officer, as well as now attorney, I would certainly feel pretty good about my case when you have eyewitness testimony on top of kind of circumstantial evidence with the text messages. It feels like a strong case just from what we know in the public, much less what the prosecutors know that's not public.
So these two girls, now women, I keep saying girls because they were girls at the time of the crime, but they have since turned over age 18. So now women, these two women took a plea deal. We talked about the mountain of evidence against them. Do you think that was the right move for them to take this deal?
Without knowing all the evidence against them, it's hard to say whether that was the right move for them. I can tell you that the specific plea deal, to my understanding, was 25 years. And in Florida, the way the law works is if you were charged with a capital murder or a murder charge and you're under the age of 18 at the time of that, you're going to get an automatic review at 25 years to determine whether or not you should stay in jail for a longer period of time. So I imagine that was something that was worked out with the prosecutor's office, where the prosecutor may have been anticipating they would get out at 25 years. So they went ahead and just went forward with that, with that process of saying, okay, let's just get 25. And there probably was some type of deal. I would imagine they may be testifying against the defendant that's going to be going to trial soon.
That moves right into my next point, because these two women now have been convicted of the crime. They're going to be serving their 25-year sentence and then 10 years probation after that. But they aren't out of the limelight for long because the other defendant in the case did not take a plea deal. He's pleaded not guilty, and he plans to go to trial early next year. Now, these two women who we already talked about, they had this boatload of evidence against them, and now they're going to be witnesses against this other defendant. I mean, is that pretty stark for the prosecution to bring forward this? They can talk about what led up to the murder, what happened during, what happened after. What are you thinking?
It's certainly helpful for the prosecution. There's no doubt about that. You have this evidence and you have witnesses that were a part of the crime that are now going to be testifying against the sole defendant that did not plea out and wants to go to trial. And my understanding, I believe, on top of that is this defendant, who's now an adult, is wanting to represent himself. And I'm sure the court's going to have some special circumstances they're going to have to deal with by having a standby attorney for this defendant, especially given his age. But I would expect the prosecution's feeling pretty good about their case right now.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this defendant will be representing himself pro se. So he does have kind of standby defense attorneys there kind of overseeing it, at least it sounds like, but he will be representing himself. And I mean, I just really have to question this, because let's say that he is a veteran attorney, that he's practiced for many years, he's gone to trial multiple times. I mean, even all of that information, if your life is on the line here, you've got to have some sort of emotion involved. Plus, this kid is young, and by all accounts, I don't believe that he is a practicing attorney. So what's that going to look like when it comes time for trial?
Well, the way the court system works is even if you represent yourself, the court still has to treat you as though you have the same knowledge as the other attorney. So in my opinion, it's a big mistake, especially when your life is on the line. General rule, no attorney ever wants to represent themselves in a case that has heavy implications, especially such as this. So I certainly think it's a mistake. I think the judge is going to have to be very careful because of the nature of these charges and the automatic appeals that may come through that. It's a tough situation for a young man who's probably making some bad decisions, and has already made a lot of bad decisions. But making a decision to represent himself, I think, will probably make the prosecution's job even easier.
I think another interesting aspect of this too is that we've already talked about the prosecution's two star witnesses, these other defendants who've been convicted in this murder. But now this defendant representing himself, is it possible that he would then cross-examine these two women he used to be friends with and allegedly committed the crime with?
Yes, he has a right to confront his accusers. So it is possible that he would be cross-examining them. And we've seen this in other high-profile cases where a defendant would cross-examine even children, unfortunately. But that is a part of our adversarial system. Defendant understands, and I'm sure the judge has already done this multiple times, understands the ramification.
Okay, now this young guy should just go ahead and put his orange jumpsuit on because he's going to go straight to jail, prison, because he's going to be found guilty. He knows nothing about or has no knowledge of the justice system whatsoever, and he is guilty. He should have just taken a plea deal or gotten himself a public defender. So I don't know what he calls himself doing. He should have just went ahead and just took a plea deal or got the public defender. But he might as well just go ahead and say, Florida, I don't know if they wear the black and white or they wear the orange, but whatever the case may be, you might as well just go pick out your size and head on to the prison.
Of representing himself. I don't believe that ineffective assistance of counsel is going to be available if he fully does represent himself through this, simply because he is his own counsel and he's made that choice. If he does start to rely maybe on the standby counsel, there may be a slight argument there, but I would imagine other areas of appeal are probably something that would be looked at versus that.
So we've talked about how this is likely an uphill battle for this defendant who will be representing himself, but we have seen already he's doing some work. He filed a motion. So he has a couple of charges against him right now, and he filed a motion to dismiss one of them, which is conspiracy to commit murder. What do you think about that? Do you think the judge might let that one slide and actually dismiss it?
I would have to know a lot more about the case in terms of the extreme details to know what the judge was likely to do. There's different elements to every crime. And so when a defendant moves to dismiss a charge, they've got to show the judge that the prosecution doesn't have any evidence to prove it, and all of those elements, and some other factors that come into that. So the judge is certainly going to have to entertain it because that's the judge's job. If it was timely filed, the judge would have to entertain it. But the defendant has a heavy burden to be able to dismiss that, especially when the defendant is not a trained attorney.
Any way you spin it, this is going to be one we'll definitely want to keep tabs on and see what happens down the line. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us today and kind of breaking down what we know so far.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that my heart and the hearts, as your listeners know, I'm the president of the Tristan Bailey Foundation and have represented that family for some time. Their hearts go out to DJ's family and the entire community that's hurting down in Miramar.
Thank you for reminding us the importance of this story and keeping DJ's memory alive.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Clemens's case is expected to go to trial in January, so more updates to come in the new year. We'll follow that on Sidebar, and the one and only Jesse Weber will bring you the latest.
So, this is a case that really did not need to go to this extreme. They should have just, parted their ways and just said, you know what, but ended in tragedy for all, especially for not little, but the young man, Dwight, DJ. He had his life taken away and way too soon. And the two young women, as well as this young man, are off to prison where when they come out, their life is basically over, because once you go into the system, you come out and you're not going to have anything, productive anyway. So tell me what you think about this story. These young teenagers that are committing these crimes right in high school, and they have no future. So join me right after this. This story, the one about Colt, is going to be out tomorrow, but we're going to go dive right into it now. And I keep saying I'm going to go live. So I might go live maybe tomorrow and talk about or one of these days I might go live. I keep saying I'm going to go live, but anyway, tell me what you think about this story. This was just a short story. I wanted to jump on quickly and do this story, and just kind of do, like I said, I'm doing high school tragedy stories this week. So tell me what you think about this story, and leave comments and hit those likes buttons. People, please get those likes up and hit the subscribe button as well. And thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, make sure that you guys go back and watch some of the other videos. And until next time, bye.